Terug naar de eerste dag van het staakt-het-vuren in Syrië. Ondanks wat schendingen is het bestand redelijk nageleefd. Vanavond sprak ik met Joshua Landis, Amerikaanse Syriëkenner. Ik vroeg hem hoe hij terugkijkt op deze eerste dag.
Well, you know, I think a lot of people were surprised that it has worked out so well. There have been some people who've broken the ceasefire, both on the government side and in the rebels. But by and large, it has been quiet in Damascus and in the north. So yes, it's been a pleasant surprise. The Russian Air Force is not flying, and that's a big change. But all the rebels seem to be complying more or less with this as well.
Why did President Assad agree to this ceasefire when he's winning the war?
Well, I don't think he wanted to agree to it. I think he wanted to keep on pressing his advantage because the rebels had been in some chaos, and he's trying to shut the border with Turkey. But I think Russia put a lot of pressure on him and said, we've got to do this, and we've got to give one to the United States.
What's the reason that Russia agreed to the ceasefire?
Well, I think the U.S. has put a tremendous amount of pressure on Russia. After all, there is this collaboration in a sense going on between the United States and Russia. Saudi Arabia and Turkey, America's two major allies, have been screaming bloody murder, saying that the United States is stabbing them in the back by not taking on Russia. And this has put tremendous pressure on Kerry to try to get some ceasefire moving. Geneva process had fallen apart. And I think he threatened the Russians. He said that there's going to be consequences. There is a plan B. And so I don't know what that plan B is or what the consequences, what his threats were. But I think the Russians wanted to go along and at least give a temporary ceasefire.
Does this mean that the United States won the argument with Russia?
No, I'm not sure if that's the case. I think this is Russia being polite to the United States, giving a brief pause to make the U.S. look like it's doing something. But I can't see this bringing an end to the fighting. And that's clearly what the West is hoping, and John Kerry is working towards. The UN Special Envoy, de Mistura, has said that on March 7th, if the ceasefire can hold, he hopes to bring all the sides together to reinitiate peace talks. That's a long way away. That would seem to be very hopeful because Assad and Russia are both determined to shut off the border with Turkey, take Aleppo and Idlib, and really smash this insurgency. That seems to be their goal. It's certainly the goal that Assad has articulated, that he wants to reconquer all of Syria and take it back, put it under government control.
Does that mean that you don't think that the ceasefire will last for the whole 2 weeks?
That's a good question. Whether it can last for 2 weeks or not, I don't know. Russia said that it would observe it in the first day or so, but it has reserved the right to attack al-Nusra and other terrorist militias that it calls terrorist, and that the United States agrees are terrorists. So they are not part of the ceasefire. Ahrar al-Sham, another major militia in the north, has not signed the ceasefire, although it is abiding by it. So there are lots of things that can go wrong in this period of 2 weeks. And I presume that we will see more things go wrong as time stretches out.
Secretary Kerry has suggested that if the ceasefire fails, the dismemberment of Syria will be the consequence. Do you agree?
Well, it's a possibility. That's clearly the U.S. analysis, is that Russia and Assad cannot reconquer Syria. They don't have the strength, the will, the money, and that it will fail, and therefore the rebels will own part of Syria. Assad will own the western part, the Kurds will take the northern part, and Syria will fragment if there is no peace negotiations. But it's very hard to see how peace negotiations are going to work because the Assad regime, the rebels, don't want the same thing. They don't want to talk to each other. They won't go to Geneva together. The Kurds want their own state. It's very it's unclear how negotiations could bring the different sides together, and if it's not by military conquest.
So what's your scenario for Syria for the next year?
Well, the next year I think we're going to see Russia and Assad trying to push their advantage and conquer western Syria. And then I think they'll begin to go after eastern Syria, where ISIS is strongest. Now, whether they have that force and can do that in defiance of the West and U.S. predictions, we don't know. But already, the prediction was by the U.S. that it would be a quagmire and Russia would stop. But the Syrian army has been taking town after town, and the Russian Air Force has been extremely vigorous and competent. So far, the Russian-Syrian plan looks like it's pushing forward.
Mr. Landis, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.